Music and entertainment are critical in everyone's well-being. It can actually change your mood, and that's what we're looking for, is that opportunity to embrace that. Noteworthy is a talk show where I get to have conversations with some of my favorite people. I get to find out what drives them and what is their passion. These are their noteworthy stories.
All right, everyone, it is Friday midday. That can mean only one thing. We're bringing to you another episode of Healthy by Association. We have a jam-packed show for you today. We have Debbie Denier from Mission Point joining us as our special guest. We'll be talking about National Nutrition Month coming up throughout the month of March. We're also going to be talking about Whole30, as well as some volunteer opportunities with Healthy by Association. All of that and more on today's show. Let's get started.
Welcome to your Healthy by Association Weekly Wellness Check with Aaron Wallowek, Angela Pelk, and Jim Thompson.
All right, everyone, it is Friday, February 26th, the last Friday in February. We're so excited to be with you today on Healthy by Association. We are down one face today. Jim Thompson is stuck in a board meeting, as is often the case in the association industry. So we send him and wish him our very best. But we have a new face of the panel today. Haven't seen Deb Denier from Mission Point in a while, so want to welcome her to the show. Debbie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am, as Aaron mentioned, I'm Debbie Denier with Mission Point Resort on Mackinac Island, and it's fun and exciting for me to be on this show. I've always had an interest in fitness and nutrition, so I'm excited to be here today.
Debbie, so I've had the great opportunity so many times, meetings and events that we've attended, for you to lead yoga with us. And so tell us a little bit about your knowledge and experience and journey with yoga.
So I can remember working out in my parents' family room to Jane Fonda videos, like in high school. And so it just has always been a hobby of mine. And at Michigan State, there was an actual class for credits to be certified group fitness instructor. And then as I got a little older, showed interest in yoga, took a yoga fit training. I think I was in 5 levels, and seniors, babies, pregnancy, kids. And so that's how I just have gotten into it. And now it's more so a hobby. It's hard for me to find the time to teach. And so selfishly with that time, I'm more of a participant, but I do love teaching when I get the chance.
Well, it's always so awesome when we attend meetings and events to have our sort of work life intersect with our personal life. I mean, that sort of intersection is always so awesome. And so I always love the opportunity when I know you professionally, but also get the opportunity to experience and benefit from, your great sort of leading of those classes. I know we've had some great experiences in the past. So thank you certainly for that. One last question, then I want to bring Angela into the conversation as well. Tell us a little bit about this pandemic time and maybe what has been, I know a little bit later in the show, we're going to talk about Whole30 and your kind of journey with food. But right now, I'm just kind of curious, how are you sort of staying plugged into health and wellness during the pandemic and sort of maybe some of the limited opportunities we've all had as a result of some of the gyms closing down, the cold weather, all of that. How are you staying plugged in?
Well, it has been quite a year. I was finding I was putting myself under so much pressure to maintain this fitness routine or schedule. And I'm the kind of person that does great if I'm at the gym. F45, that was my thing before COVID and before the gym shut down. And while they were offering those videos at home, it was so hard for me to motivate, or I would, and the dog was, licking my face, or the kids needed something. And so it was really more stressful than not. And so I think just within the last few months, I have given myself forgiveness for exercising. I've focused more now on the nutrition aspect of health. And I'm hopeful that as things change, I know the gyms are open. Their attendance is a little bit more limited. I could come up with any excuse, but it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle to home motivate, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that honesty and sort of that glimpse and just that like ability to forgive yourself for the things that maybe you're not able to do or you're not willing to do right now. And I know we'll talk a little bit later about how maybe you're balancing that with nutrition. So often we hear that it's really the things we put in our mouth that are even a bigger component of the story versus just thinking about movement and exercise alone. So we'll talk about that balance a little bit later. I want to welcome you, Angela, to the panel. Tell us what's going on with you this week.
Hey everybody, glad you're all here. I'm happy to be here today too. I don't know. I've been moving. I've been eating well. Got back from my vacation last week. If you tuned in, you all know I went to Disney. And again, like Erin said, sometimes vacation can be like I'm not saying no to anything. And so I felt like I needed to clean up my act a little bit, just feeling a little sluggish and bloaty and, kind of like I'm feeling really good and pretty energized. So, happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday, and it's good to see your face as always. All right, so I teased earlier that I want to talk about National Nutrition Month, and already on this conversation today, we've already begun to jump into that a little bit. March is National Nutrition Month for folks who are following along, and March is just a couple of days away now. And so I'm going to take sort of this National Nutrition Month messaging and tease it out week by week and just kind of talk about it a little bit on today's show with our panelists. Week one is really focused on eating a variety of nutritious foods every day. And I think what I really love about this approach to National Nutrition Month is that we're really encouraging you to think about something slightly different each week, knowing that trying to do it all, cram it all into one opportunity, one sitting is probably not the way to adopt a new healthy habit. And so thinking about it slightly as you go can be helpful to this process. And so as you eat a variety of nutritious foods every day during week one, some tips they have is to include healthy foods from all food groups, hydrate healthfully, learn how to read nutrition fact panels, avoid distractions when eating, and taking time to enjoy your food. Angela, I'm going to come to you next, and then I'm going to come to Deb, and I'm just curious, as you hear those kind of tips and tricks, what's maybe one of them that stands out to you as something maybe your family could implement over the course of the next week?
Oh, we've gotten in a really bad habit of just plopping down in front of the TV and eating. So I think that like mindfulness of like being present while you're eating, kind of, like let's sit down at the table and actually like pause to have a meal. We're not in a rush. Like we have, sports, but it's late, in the evening. We have like 8:00 training for soccer. So it's not like we're like get home from school and do this and do that. So we really do have time and should take the time to really, sit and enjoy our meals together. And we just kind of do it on the fly, or I was hungry and you were not. And, so maybe we have to get off the couch and start eating at the table.
I love that. Deb, how about for you and your family? Anything in particular kind of jump out at you as maybe something you could try to implement a little more mindfully as we slide into the first week of National Nutrition Month?
It's interesting that you asked that, and I have an answer. This morning, like one of my staple salads lately is the broccoli salad, a whole 30 recipe of it. And I ran out last night and I'm like, oh gosh, it's working for me, but do I really want to go to the store just to get the ingredients to make this? And so I looked in the vegetable drawer of the refrigerator and had cherry tomatoes and celery and green onions. I'm like, what can I do with this? So jump on, look up a whole 30 recipe, plug in the ingredients that I have, and I came up with a great salad. And so I think instead of making multiple trips to the store, packing my refrigerator so full and my cupboard so full, I'm going to try to like maybe purge out a little bit and find unique ways to use what I have and kind of draw more time between my grocery store visits.
I love that. It's kind of like that Chopped mentality, like a live episode of Chopped in your house, right? Like I think I don't know, I get so stuck in like the same meals or the same way we prepare the meals. And so to really sort of take inventory of what you have and maybe come up with a new and healthy meal, I certainly love that. Angela, I'm going to come to you for week 2 because I know it's sort of a topic that you were curious and interested about talking about this week as well. And thinking about week 2 during March, they're really encouraging us to plan your meals each week. So to use a grocery list, to shop for healthy foods, be menu savvy when you dine out, choose healthful recipes to make during the week, enjoy healthy eating at school and at work, and plan for healthful eating while traveling. And while we may not be doing as much traveling as we once did, I think that this idea around meal planning is an important one. So tell us a little bit more about your perspective and kind of what's top of mind for you right now.
I keep saying it feels like Groundhog's Day. And yet, I haven't until recently really done any better with, meal planning or meal prepping. And kind of like Deb said, I'm trying to sort of take inventory at home in my own pantry, in my own freezer, and in the fridge. We pretty much cleared out the fridge before our trip. And now, it is stuffed with stuff. But it is because I did some meal planning. I found this meal prep based on my goals, my calorie goals, and this could not be easier. So use your resources on the internet, friends. It had a full shopping list. It had a full step-by-step prep list to do 5 days of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I just have been sort of recycling this week, and it's working for me. I've kind of said before, even being at home, so many of us are working from home or, spending more time at home. I still think it's important to have meals prepped and ready to go. While I may have time, if I'm hungry, I'm going to grab the first fast thing that I find. And it doesn't serve my goals, period. Sometimes it's okay, but it doesn't serve my goals all the time. So just being prepared makes a big difference.
I love that. I'm going to move into week 3, and I will post in the show notes from this episode the link to the eatright.org website. I know we've used it in previous shows and podcasts before, and it's a great resource. But for those that are sort of following along and maybe want to intentionally incorporate some of these ideas into your March nutrition practice, I think this is as good a time as any to try at least a couple of these things. Week 3, Deb, you actually commented on this already a little bit, and so I'll just sort of introduce this topic and then come to you. Week 3 suggests we should learn skills to create tasty meals, and it seems like you're already doing that to some extent. Some tips and tricks here are to keep healthful ingredients on hand, to practice proper home food safety, to share meals together as a family when possible, to reduce food waste, and to try... I love this last one. Try new flavors and foods. So as you hear some of those ideas around week 3, maybe what stands out to you and your family as you think about creating those tasty meals?
So, like Angela mentioned, the preparation is key. And I have been finding, while I haven't been doing the workouts, it's allowing me time for meal prep. And that whole 80% nutrition, 20% exercise towards fitness is kind of what I'm going towards. I made a chicken, broccoli, mushroom, onion casserole, and the sauce on it, again, Whole30 recipe, was cashews, roasted garlic, lemon juice, and olive oil, I think. It made this, I did it in my Ninja blender. It was creamy, almost like an Alfredo sauce. I couldn't even believe it, but completely dairy free. It was great.
love.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, and
Sounds good.
whether it's websites or cookbooks or just inspiration from other people in your family and in your networks, like I just love testing out some new recipes as well. And when you sort of get a hankering for a flavor or a taste or something like that, just to try it out. I know that sometimes, right now when it's not easy to just go to your local restaurant to maybe necessarily get the thing that you were craving, to be able to maybe try that, experiment with that at home, I think is also a great way to kind of test your own skills, but also to get maybe your kids and other family members in the kitchen as well. So that's awesome. This last week 4, just encourages us to consult a registered dietitian. Whether it's to ask your doctor for a referral or to engage your existing networks, but to really receive that personalized nutrition advice from somebody whose expertise is that. And I think during the pre-show conversation, I was asking if either of you had some experience with this, and I don't think that you had, but I did want to share a story that at the ASAE conference, the Great Ideas Conference that was held in March in Salt Lake City last year, sort of as the pandemic was really hitting the US and things were starting to lock down and people were starting to stay home. We did engage a nutritionist to present at our conference. It wasn't a conference focused on health and wellness, but we were infusing sort of health and wellness elements into the event, and it was really a great experience. She brought legitimately a suitcase full of actual food, packages of food, and just sort of laid things out. And as people were asking questions about snacking or breakfast or protein or whatever, she was able to sort of pull out 3 or 4 options and say, I really like this one because of X, Y, or Z. And she was showing us labels and how to read them. And if you've not had that experience before, I think it's one to really take advantage of. And certainly if you are struggling in terms of building out your own meal plans over the course of a week, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or snacking, certainly engaging a nutritionist can be a good plan. Angela, I want to come to you. I know that we've had nutritionists on before, and I'm just kind of curious if you have anything that lingers with you as a result of those conversations that maybe would be interesting tips or tricks to share with our viewers now.
I haven't though. I think it's just really interesting to learn about food and really learn about how food affects you, how it affects your body, how your body responds to, more carbs in the morning, or cutting, like reducing red meat or whatever. I think when you're really in tune with your body, which I don't feel like I am at the moment, but I think when I really am, I can tell, like my energy is a lot better if, I fuel my day with protein, like a protein heavy breakfast in the morning rather than like, a bowl of oatmeal or cereal or a stack of pancakes, something on the carbier side. And I think it just depends on kind of like what your goals are. But if you can kind of note how food makes you feel, that's probably the best guide you can really follow. I would love to get a dietitian consultation. I think that would be very interesting.
I was I'm feverishly writing down right now just a couple of things so I don't forget. I've been seeing, I don't know if you all have been seeing this more or not, but in Facebook and in other social media platforms, I've been seeing some of these like sensitivity tests that I think you can take at home in terms of foods that you are sensitive to or not. And so that's the one thing that sort of jumps to my mind. My nephew right now is actually extremely sensitive and allergic, I guess, to eggs. And so like legitimately the number of things that contain eggs is really out of control, even the prepackaged foods that contain eggs. And so just kind of knowing what your body is sensitive to and what you are fueled by and what you are not, I think is important. When we've had some dietitians on in the past, they've also talked about sickness and just really how to support your body when you're ill, when you're drained with either the right foods or supplements or whatnot. And just sort of, I'm not an expert in that area at all, but I think that's a very interesting sort of field to consider. The last thing that you were touching on, I think, Angela, just a little bit that I wanted to pull out a little bit further is just knowing how to eat around your workouts and your movements, whether it's, you're running or doing cardio or lifting weights or strength training or whatever, just knowing what to eat before or after and in what time frame, I think, is incredibly important as well, because I think you can do a lot of harm to yourself when you try to cut out all of that good food, that good nutrition, and are just trying to deplete your body through working out and through movement. So knowing the balance, the dance, if you will, between healthy movement and healthy eating. And often, so many people say this all the time. I see it in articles, I see it in interviews. People say that oftentimes our weight and how we feel and our overall well-being is more so even tied to the nutrition than it is to the actual movement. And so just kind of knowing that what you put into your body is so incredibly important. So again, I'll post those kind of notes and resources in the show notes for people who want to look further into that. But I do want to pivot now to a conversation that Deb wants to bring forward to all of you today. And that's just this topic of Whole30. And so I'll ask a couple of questions, Deb, about this process for you. But I really want to just start at the most basic level. Can you tell us a little bit about the theory around Whole30 for those maybe that aren't familiar with it?
So the theory goes in two parts. One of them is changing your emotional attachment with food. I'm not so much on that path as much as I am, and exactly just goes back to what you guys were both saying, that the different foods that you put in your body have the effects of, can cause ailments in you, right? So things like heartburn, achy joints, depression, hot flashes with menopause. There's a lot of different things that can be cured by your diet. And so the concept behind the Whole30 is you eliminate 5 things from your diet: dairy, sugar, legumes, alcohol, and grains. And as you eliminate those from your body, you really do start noticing the changes, at least I do, the physical changes in how you feel.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'll talk a little bit later, kind of my experience with Whole30. This is probably a good juncture in the show to always say, remember, any new sort of meal plan that's new to you, you should consult with your doctor, you should consult with a nutritionist. But this is a pretty established program out there. We'll post in the show notes a link to Whole30 website for those that are interested in exploring further. So let's jump in a little bit further now, Deb, to just say, when did you start Whole30 and what has your experience been on the program?
So this is the second time that I've done it. The first time I did it was probably 4 years ago. And obviously 4 years younger, I did it for different reasons back then. It was more so, let's see if I can lose some of this existing baby weight. And this round, it really is, every time I went to work out, I'm like, oh my God, my hips hurt, my knees hurt, my shoulders, everything about me hurts. And is it because I'm old? Is it because of menopause? What is it because of? And so doing this, and I even forgot your question, but the Whole30, I have noticed the few times that I have slipped, when I have had sugar, the next day my body aches. It's almost like this instant inflammation. And I had a little bit of sour cream also through this process, and it gave me instant heartburn. And so I'm already identifying what is happening to my body from these foods. And it's, now that I'm used to it, I'm feeling so much better, physically feeling better, emotionally, energy. Everything's going real good.
That's awesome. Angela, do you have experience with Whole30 before or not?
No, I've never done Whole30 before, but what I've been doing since we've been back is vegan. So when you named the 5 things that you're supposed to eliminate, I've definitely eliminated dairy and sugar. I'm eating a lot of, chickpeas and black beans. So legumes are in, as are grains. I had a quinoa brown rice mix. Um, but maybe that's a good next step for me is to kind of do that, because I have felt energetic. It's just like a lot of vegetables. Like the volume of this stuff that I've been prepping is just like, I'm like, oh, I'm just tired of eating this. Which whoever says that, I'm like, give me more usually. So it's been interesting, but definitely I've talked about this a million times before between podcasts and HBA Live is sugar for me is no bueno. It just doesn't do me any good. So being without the sugar.
Can you tell me, I want you to tell me more about that. Like, I've always been so interested and curious with people who have intentionally cut out sugar. Like, first tell us how rigid you are with like reading labels and how much you are like being specific about cutting out sugar. And then tell us specifically how has that changed either your mental or your physical well-being?
When I say I'm cutting sugar, I'm cutting trying to avoid anything that's added sugar. Like, if you read the ingredients label, there's 2 lines. It says sugars. And if you're looking, say an apple had an ingredients line. Fruit has sugar in it, but it's naturally occurring. There's 1 ingredient in an apple. It's apple. But it does have sugar in it, and all fruit does. But if you're looking at a cup of applesauce, let's say, it's the same apple. It's processed in a way, but sometimes they add sugar. So if you look at a label that says applesauce, it may say apples and then any number of things that could mean sugar, corn syrup, high fructose, blah, blah, blah. Like all of those things. There's all sorts of hidden names for sugar. If that was something that was an option, I would try and choose something that just had a single ingredient. Applesauce, apples, whatever. So I try to actually avoid any added sugar. I am eating fruit just because my plan says so. But I try to avoid any added sugars. So that's pretty much it. And I do feel, I don't know, like less sluggish or a little bit just more energized. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Nice.
We'll see. Keep going.
Yeah, no, I was going to share that in our pre-show. I was also talking about how 4 or 5 years ago, it was after like a bad breakup. I went on a sort of all-inclusive vacation, and there was one rule with the friend that I went with, and it was we're going to eat and drink whatever we want, whenever we want. Like there were just no, it was one of those like rooms where you had sort of like a bar, like the bar, not just with like the mini like things of alcohol, but like the actual like big things of alcohol in your room, and you could just like eat and drink whatever you wanted. And I came back from that trip and had gained a considerable amount of weight. And we know that it's not always about weight, but for somebody who's obsessive like me and sort of does track those numbers, I was like, nope, I need something to reset myself, not only to reset the scale, but just to reset how I was feeling. I mean, you can imagine after a trip like that, like just how you feel. And so I did, that was my first experience with Whole30. And it does take some getting used to because it feels like you're sort of not eating some of the things that you're used to eating. But it definitely reset both my mind, my body, the scale, how I'm feeling, and so I have firsthand experience, and it was very positive for me as well. All right, so Deb, for those that maybe want to get in touch with you, either by email or by social media to talk more about Whole30 or your experiences, what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you?
Email is great, and it's my first initial and my last name, so DDENYER@missionpoint.com, or on Facebook, Deborah M. Denyer.
Awesome. Well, we so appreciate you joining us today. The half hour goes by so quickly. We have just a couple of minutes remaining, and I want to tease a couple of things. First, we have opened up a call for volunteers for the Healthy by Association community. So if you are interested in writing blog posts or coming on the show, helping us with Facebook posts or some of our member contests, please feel free to complete that short questionnaire. It only takes a minute or two in order to do that. I know we have very limited time remaining, but Angela, in like your best 15-20 second pitch, tell folks maybe why they should get more involved with HBA.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I just think that being part of this community has been great for accountability and getting ideas. I mean, everybody's on their own health and wellness journey, but sometimes when you find like some great information, it's awesome to share it. I found that when having just like a focus of like Motivation Monday, I'm looking for that stuff now. And I'm so anxious to share it on Monday morning, or this week it was Monday evening. But it's cool to share and just to see how people react to, sort of what they find, because you never know what's going to resonate with someone or be like, oh, I was looking for something exactly like this. So that's what this community is about.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next week, you know her, you love her. She generally joins us from another country, namely England. I don't know if she's overseas or if she's stateside, so we'll find out together next week. But Therese Turner will be joining us. We're excited to have her on the show. In the meantime, I'm Aaron Wellick, and this has been Healthy by Association. Until next time, please remember to power your life with health, wellness, and intention. We'll see you next week, everyone.